In this process, what's the point? Oh, well, now we have an album. Now we're...
Perfect.
I don't know.
Pass me the coffee.
Oh, coffee for Brent. Enjoy.
I have a
Nice wafer.
A little bit of jet lag going on.
Yeah.
What was the question?
Well, so you were working on these songs and this whole process of well, you had 400 ideas. So when in this whole process did you think, okay, now we have enough for a record, or now this is going to be a record and we should kind of complete it now?
I mean, I guess about a year ago, we just kind of like took a step back and reconnected and said, hey, where are we with all this stuff that we've been tinkering with? And when we kind of looked at it, we still at that point didn't have half the songs that ended up on the record, but we had about half of them. We had a bunch of other stuff that didn't make it, but that's when we were like, yeah, we're on our way to a record. And that was the first time we kind of were like, let's do this. Let's put both of our feet in and put our hands in the batter together, like this. And that's when we were kind of like, let's make a record. And even then, it wasn't until like the very end that we were sure we were even going to have a record.
Am I right in saying that you didn't tell anybody initially?
We didn't tell anybody outside of it. I told the National knew I was working on it because I was working on it on the bus, you know, and they knew I was working on something with Brent years and years ago. Okay. In fact, they kept saying like, whatever happened to that thing you were doing? I'm like, we're still kind of doing it, you know. That's what it was for a long time. And then, so I was working on hotel rooms and in the bus. So the National knew, but we kept it a secret. Not a secret. We just didn't talk about it outside of. We didn't actually talk about it at all. We didn't even talk about it that much together.
We still aren't talking about it.
We
right
still
now.
refuse to talk.
We will never talk about it.
I don't know who he is. He's this butler figure. Yeah, but we didn't tell anybody outside of, because we didn't know if it actually would ever turn into something. It's sort of like it was a kind of a pregnancy that we weren't sure was actually gonna. It was like, you know, the first 3 months of a pregnancy, and you're not sure if it's gonna happen or not, for real. And that's why we didn't say anything. We didn't want to have to like say, oh yeah, that we quit that. We walked away from that. We didn't feel like ever, because there was a very good chance that we were going to do that, and that was part of there was no pressure on this thing. So by not telling anybody about it was like just kept the pressure off of it.
You say there wasn't that there was a very good chance that it would never come to something. So when was the turning point where you for yourselves thought, well, okay, now this is was it what you just mentioned about a year ago? Now it
was probably before that, but okay. Where I got excited.
Yeah, I mean it's vague, but for me it seemed really real when Matt came up to Portland and we recorded drums with my friend Drew Scholes. He's a Portland native, and we recorded with him for about 3 days, and that formed the basis for about 2/3 of the drums on the record. And then it really seemed like, oh wow, we have like, this is getting real. Like we have like real drums to use now. So this is cool.
And well, finally then, Matt, obviously the National is doing well. What could you...
Really well.
Are you really?
Well,
Good for you guys.
The same goes for you in a way, Brent, but...
No, it doesn't.
Well,
what did you say?
But the same goes for me.
What could you...
You're doing great.
I am, you're right, I'm doing
What could you express in this project that you couldn't in your own project?
The word dick?
And now I do that in all my projects.
That's true, you do that
That
all the
happens
time.
everywhere. There isn't anything I can't do in the National. I never felt any remotely restricted by the National. I wasn't motivated to do this because I needed to, because I needed to express something outside of the National. It wasn't the case. It was I'm totally satisfied creatively by the National. But this was like bonus excitement or something. It was just a friend who had lots of great music ideas that he was going to let me sing on, and it was just exciting. And the nature of the Brent's, the way he puts chords together, and the way he records and the way he architects a song and the way he produces things is very, very different than the National. And it's not like I like it better or anything. It was exciting because it was different, and I thought, like, what would it be like if I do my thing along with him doing his thing? And so we trusted each other to do our things, and it wasn't like I needed to. It was just the ideas themselves that we were sharing were motivation enough. I kept wanting to go back to the songs, not really to escape anything else, other than to escape after parties. I started to work on these songs instead of going to after parties. I would go to the bus or go to the hotel room, open my laptop, and work on this stuff as a way to just disconnect from all the stuff that goes on the National tour, a little bit, but not the National. I wasn't escaping the music at all, the National.
And then for you, well, because you have Ramona Falls and Menomena, so what was your not intent, because that's too contrived, but what did you get out of working with somebody else?
Well, this is the first time I think I've worked with an artist where the artist does the words and the melodies, and I'm just in charge of the instrumentation. I mean, we would give each other feedback.
He's talking about me. I'm that artist.
Matt insisted that I refer to him only as the artist for the entire duration of this process.
When the artist gave me his words.
So I'm used to working in collaboration with other people, but this was kind of a different flavor. But it was I don't know, it just reminded me of how much fun it could be to work on music, and I think the value of trusting yourself and of trusting your collaborator. That's really sweet when you can find it. I don't know if sweet's the right word. It's just that I have a lot of sugar right now. But it's very I don't know. It's very
tantalizing.
Tantalizing.
That's not right.
Electrifying. No, I feel like it brings out my best, and I feel like it brings out my collaborator's best. So, it's ideal. How about that? It's ideal. It's not always possible.
Consternating? Never.
Uh-uh.
No.
Well, was it liberating in that sense then?
Liberating.
Because you could now focus on the music, just the music.
Liberating. I mean, it was.
That's a great question.
Yeah, it was fun. I guess in some ways it takes off the pressure, right? Because it's you're sharing the work with someone, so it's like, so I didn't feel like I had to come up with songs about kites, but it also was fun just to watch how like Matt's melodies and lyrics brought out different aspects of my musical influences, and so I listen to a really wide spectrum of music, but usually I tend to write kind of gloomier songs, and in this project, yeah, there's some gloom for sure, but there's also other more upbeat aspects. So it was fun watching that happen, and I think it's just because of the kind of creative chemistry.
And finally then, well, you're touring the US, I think, in November, Europe in December. Where do you see this collaboration going in the future?
We haven't talked about that much at all, really, and because that was sort of the nature of how it began, where it was like, let's not talk about what it's the future of it, because we weren't just if it happens kind of thing, and that let us there was zero pressure on it or no strings attached at all. So I think we're going to kind of keep that vibe about it. That being said, I'd be surprised if we don't make another record, because we had a blast doing it, and it didn't, and it made our other things that we're doing, I think, even better. It made us, I'm excited in a different way about working on the next National record, because I've had this experience, and everybody in the National does all these other collaborations and cross-pollinating of influences. That's just the nature of the community of people that we know within the National, including Menomena, including Ramona Falls, and so even Brian is working on a record with Danny from Menomena. So we're all part of this kind of interconnected farm team of different friends, So and all those projects, I think, get people excited about just rejuvenate people's batteries, and so that always comes back to the National. So yeah, I'm pumped to work on the next national record now. I think a lot of it because I was able to do this.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us here in your library, your beautiful library.